Honest and true, despite what has happened to you. Honest and true, honest and true, honest and true, in spite of what has happened to you. Honest and true, honest and true, honest and true, despite what has happened to you. Honest and true, honest and true. There was once a time when I was alive, I was younger then, and I survived. There was a time when I was alive and I survived. I was younger then and I was alive. Surrounding me were people, you see. People. People thrive. Surrounding me there were people, you see. People come alive. And the people, the things that they say are something. And sometimes they're nothing, just like today. The people around me, they got things to say. Sometimes they're something, sometimes they're nothing. Taking advantage of honesty. Okay, here's the picture. I have a vision of this person, me, and my friend who I walked with for years. Many years. Friend I walked with for years. Many years. Across the country, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, San Diego, New Jersey, here, there, New Orleans, Chicago, Russia, all over Europe. And one day, we were with each other for a long time. And one day, we go away, and we come back, and we proclaim that we are Echad, which is a big complicated term. It's like describing namaste or salam. It doesn't mean peace, it means a fullness that goes all the way through you that is more powerful than the trouble on the outside or the trouble on the inside. And it's huge, and it's Echad means one. And I realized that we didn't disclose the event of announcing our Echad. And I started thinking, I remember the looks on the faces of people when they saw we got these rings. Now I have different ideas about rings nowadays and physical adornments of the body and costumes and stuff. But, it's a certain tradition. If you do some lineage, if you do some study, there's some bondage stuff in it. It doesn't really work that good. Slavery, that kind of thing. And adornment of the body with gold is possibly not the most spiritually positive thing. It can actually potentially bring a wrong spirit over you if you're handling it improperly. But anyway, we got these rings, and I remember the reaction of certain persons when we saw the rings, certain persons that we were related to. Certain persons that we were related to, when they saw these rings, they were kind of in shock, almost like in disbelief, and pretending it sort of almost didn't happen. Like it was a non-event. Like there was a weird spirit that fell over them. And I feel like they were jealous and disapproving, and it was kind of weird. So I started thinking, why did we get weird reactions to the presentation of, we're Echad, we've made this vow, and all leading into the making of the vow and all that kind of stuff in a public place. It was very interesting. Had a lot of elements in it that I won't explain now. But then I started thinking, why was the declaration of Echad hidden? Why did we hide it from the family, the posse, the tribe? Well, partly because we were a Bedouin pair separate from many others, but also because we had been taught to hide essential things. Okay? These are two essential things hidden. An individual alive in human history goes into the spirit realm and then sends supernatural powers on an assembly of very ordinary rough people, commercial fishermen, and essentially like loan shark, drug dealer type business people. You know, like real rip you off business people. Power comes over some people. Supernatural powers and a surprise language. Tomba kitenga tenga bodoche larabokuramba teva. The surprise language comes over these people. And they have supernatural powers. And they have an ability to communicate in alignment with that person that went into the spirit realm. That's one hidden thing. Another hidden thing, and this might seem minimal, another hidden thing is the realities of pleasure and procreation. Pleasure and procreation. And if there's ordinary conversation, building up joy and completeness about the echad of two forms that fit like a puzzle, and because two forms that are fountains, male is a fountain, female is a fountain, two forms that are fountains, and when the two fountains blend together, they become a fountain of a new entity. They can actually make a new entity. And that's not just a scientific thing, that's a supernatural thing. Is it natural? Is it supernatural? Well, it's just a natural thing. But besides that, since some real issues were shoved under the table, okay, in a Christianity environment, if you're hiding the supernatural power stuff, you are ripping people off. You're not giving them the full dose of what you proclaim to be interacting with. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you have an understanding of the pleasure, and if you can't go through the physiology and the reality that it feels better to the man to have the woman's hands on him rather than him touching himself, and there's a completeness to that. Two parts, four hands, one part that fits together, and this whole lovely thing that inside you have a ability for, and often usually probably you have at least a curiosity about. If you don't have a desire for it, at least you have a curiosity about it. An open and clear and clean and flowing conversation about those two things. As you're growing up day to day, life goes fast. Like, oh, that's right. By the way, mommy, what does this feel like? I remember the story that you told and the other thing. And what happens when this happens? What happens when that happens? If that kind of flow is not going on in the family, oh, do you know anybody that actually the cancer went away or came back from the dead? No? Okay. Well, let's find somebody. Let's do some research and actually talk to a person and find out what it felt like and what they faced. A person who almost died. That kind of stuff. If that kind of stuff was not in place in my life, in the Christianity environment and in the family environment, and therefore major issue things, I received a training that you take major issue things and you hide. And I just got this feeling that that's why our vow and our moment of echad in a public place was hidden from everyone we knew. Because we were trained by example to hide essential things. Don't do it. Please help the children. Get children near you and talk about the supernatural visitor and the pleasure stuff. And Ichad, and the fact that there's a spirit that helps you get through the muck in a relationship and be in loving kindness, and there's a spirit that helps you with the children that come forth and guides you to even cash flow and et cetera, especially if you're following the command to bring other children in, if you've got some infrastructure. And teachings about righteousness, teachings about the right ways, right thought, right word, right deed, the eightfold path. Teachings about righteousness are everywhere. But is there a supernatural visitor that showed up in the human race and then went back in the spirit realm and gives supernatural powers? Be healed. Be delivered and refreshed and removed from depressions. Be completely light and tranquil right now. Completely light on every issue in your life. Right now, in the name of Yehoshua HaMashiach Adonai, and the sweet blood sacrifice, and the proof of resurrection, and all the predictions in the unchanged book. Unchanged? Yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls proves that the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures that hold all those predictions was never changed. And why can people kill people in the Old Testament? Well, you might not like this, but the Spirit that loves all of us decided not to allow us to just destroy each other. So there was an example in one family of people to be an example of to everybody on the earth, and a preservation of a bloodline to bring forth a supernatural visitor. And if you're not curious about that stuff, if it's all crap to you, go away, but come back if you ever get curious. Because I'm telling you, it's not that hard to get to the bottom of these things, especially on the web. Be watchful. Remember the 300s. Hundreds of predictions in an unchanged book point to the supernatural visitor. The life and teachings of the supernatural visitor. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then the first peoples to receive supernatural powers. Yeshua of Nazareth showed, that's Jesus of Nazareth, Yehoshua of Nazareth, one of his most important powers was the ability to transfer supernatural powers into other people. Look at the book of Acts, chapter 8. A sorcerer, a magician of great fame, is freaked out when he sees that the apostles, the sent ones, when they lay their hands on people, stuff happens to them. And that sorcerer wants that power to transfer supernatural powers from God into other peoples. He wants to buy it. Okay? So one of the most important powers discernible to people that understand spirits, one of the most important powers that comes from Yehoshua is the ability to transfer supernatural powers into another person. Yehoshua of Nazareth, Mashiach, the Anointed One, Jesus, Christ, which is Christos, anointed, showed the power, ability to transfer supernatural powers and put a spirit into a person, or be a part of the part of the highest, sweet, great spirit, putting a spirit of empowerment and tranquility into a person. So there's three parts to the book: predictions and preparations, life and teachings of this supernatural visitor, and then the first peoples, which is essentially one of our most important things to look at. And when you look at the red letters or the Jesus communications to the first peoples, the first thing he says is, don't do anything until you get the powers. Don't even worry or think about all this stuff. Don't make a move until you get the powers. Don't proclaim your God until you get the powers. And then nextly, he tells this guy Peter a thing that's totally spiritually screwy to him. He tells him to go to people that he's disgusted by. So you will be told to go to people that you're disgusted by or freaked out by or uncomfortable with. To learn, to give, And also, there's also this amazing visitation. There's a supernatural miracle event. And that miracle event that happens to Rabbi Shaul, super rabbi, is repeated over and over again, which indicates when you have a supernatural thing that happens to you from God, you need to make it into a song and a story and repeat it over and over again. And lastly, there's only four things that I saw. There was, don't move till you got powers. You will be called in directions that feel very uncomfortable.